So this here, as you can see, is the plans for the trebuchet that you just watched me draw. I apologize that it's not really the greatest of art pieces, but I'm not very good at digital art and using GIMP. But anyway, that is not important. The important thing is how this thing works. Basic idea here is that, well, the most important part is this throwing wheel right here. So this wheel is on an axle that can spin around, and attached to the wheel are two important things: the throwing arm and the rope. So, the rope is attached to some position that I'll figure out later, and it goes around the wheel and is eventually attached to a cinder block. And so, the cinder block will be supported by something, and when that support goes away, the cinder block will fall down and pull on this part of the wheel right here with it. And that'll lift the throwing arm up, and that'll lift the rope up, and the sack holding the potato or the water balloon or whatever I decide to throw will also go up. And that'll launch the projectile. And now we have one completed trebuchet. Let's take a tour around the parts and see how it works.
So the first thing in our tour is the spaghetti spoon, which is going to be the holding spot for our projectile. So you see, you put the projectile in there, and then you pull it back, and then it launches, and it's going to be nice. And it is taped to the aluminum arm, which we got from Home Depot. It's made out of aluminum. It's not hollow. The hollow ones were too large. But it's still very light. It's going to work very well, in my opinion. And the aluminum arm is attached to the wheel through some complex little bits and pieces. It took quite a while to get the right pieces and figure out how to attach them correctly. And, yeah, it's an old wheel that's from an old bike somewhere. It's not a bike anymore. The wheel is attached to the body of the trebuchet through some bolts and screws on scrap metal. So we found some scrap metal that this little axle right here could go through. Then we bolted it through, and then we nailed the scrap metal to the body of the trebuchet, which is the wood. Now, the body of the trebuchet is made out of wood. It still has its triangles, and the point of this is to be able to lift up the wheel so that there's a space for the weights to fall. And it is very tall, so it does just that. There's a lot of room for the weights to fall, so the arm can accelerate very quickly from not moving at all. Here is our bucket of weights. It has lots of bolts and washers and miscellaneous metal things, all in a metal jar, attached to a rope, which loops around the wheel and is attached to this end of the wheel right about here. So it goes over, so when we lift it up, it's going to pull on this edge of the wheel and try to pull it upwards as far as it can. But it can't go all the way because of this clever thing my dad thought up right here, which is a slip knot, so that, well, something I should explain. The projectile leaves the spaghetti spoon when the arm stops. It comes to a dead stop. So, I was thinking that tomorrow when we're going to be doing testing, we're going to need to be able to adjust the angle at which the arm stops completely, and it's going to be a pain to try to retie it. So what my dad thought up was that we make this a slip knot. So I can move this up and down, and whenever this is straight up, the arm is stopped. And when I move the arm back, see the rope slacks a bit, and then as soon as I drop it, when it gets to the right angle, the rope is straight again.
Today's day 4. It's the day that we test out the trebuchet. Project, I was working on making a trebuchet, which is a ancient launching weapon that launches rocks.
Like a catapult.
Yes, it's similar to a catapult, Evan. Thank you for that. However, it is not a catapult. The trebuchet gave the people who designed it, I forgot who they were, it gave them a really huge advantage over all of their enemies because they only had catapults, but when they had trebuchets, they could knock down castle walls and kill lots and lots of people from very far away. And I don't have one of those giant trebuchets, nor do I plan on building one anytime soon, maybe later, but right now I made a little trebuchet.